don't you tell me, Gilda, why we caught you outside of the diner on 5th Street late last night.
I'll tell you one more time, Detective. I don't know what you're talking about. Would you mind putting out that cigarette? The smell bothers me.
Look, we have witnesses saying they saw you and Patrick walk out of the diner together last night.
Well, they're lying. I ain't no killer.
Listen, we know you left the diner with Patrick and got in a cab, and the next morning he was found dead in his apartment. Either you know something we don't. It seems to me that you're the culprit.
All right, fine. I admit. I was going to go to his place. But he was too drunk and started getting handsy in the cab over. So, I asked the driver to let me out, and I went home. I would have never imagined something like this could happen. It's a real tragedy.
Did you? Well, then how come we find a diamond ring at the scene of the crime? Seems like the murderer was a woman, and by the looks of it, one that was in a rush.
I got rid of my wedding ring ages ago.
We also found a lipstick-stained cigarette at the scene.
Detective, I don't smoke.
Okay, you don't smoke. Do you drink then? Seemed like you had a few drinks at the diner. Sometimes people make mistakes when they're drunk.
I did have a few. But I wasn't anywhere near drunk. I was having a good time. It turns out the man I was talking to was nothing like I thought he was.
Who did you think he was then?
I don't know. A nice guy.
So this supposedly nice guy got drunk and handsy in the cab over to his apartment, causing you to leave and go straight home, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
That's interesting, because according to your neighbor, you didn't come home until morning. He said the lights in your house were out all night. He saw you in the morning when he was coming back home from a jog.
Well, you see, Detective, I got home rather late. I was very tired, so I went to bed straight away. I don't think people leave their lights on while they sleep, now do they?
I suppose not, no.
And also, I had to stop by my place in the morning because I forgot a document I needed for work. It's only normal to forget things sometimes.
It's true. You know, when I was at the crime scene, I couldn't help but notice the smell that wafted around the room. Underneath the smell of rotting corpse and blood, there was a rather sweet smell. That of an expensive perfume.
It's rather odd to say, Detective.
I admit it is an odd thing to bring up, but you see, Gilda, I can't help but notice that very same smell in this room.
My perfume probably just rubbed off on him in the cab over.
All right. I think I have everything I need. Just one more question. You have no idea who he was before that night?
Not at all, Detective.
So you have no idea that Patrick killed a man? We did a background check and linked him to a hit-and-run suspect from 2 years ago. Isn't it true that your husband was also killed in a similar accident?
Yes. My husband was killed in a crash. But it's got nothing to do with this.
I told you earlier that we found a ring at the scene of the crime, but I never mentioned that it was a wedding ring. Also, The stain of the lipstick on the cigarette is awfully similar to the stain of the lipstick on that glass. And the perfume you are wearing matches the scene of the crime exactly. You found out Patrick was the murderer of your husband and decided to take revenge against him. You saw him at the diner that day and knew the moment was right.
That's not true.
Gilda, you seem nervous. Is there something wrong?
This is outrageous. You don't know me.
Oh, but I do. You've been itching your nose this whole time. You tend to do that when you're lying. Just admit that you killed him. There's no escaping the guilt of what you did, I know. I've been trying for the last 2 years. It never goes away. Those were my cigarettes. That was my whiskey flask. My truck keys. My life that you took away from me. None of this will bring your husband back.